at Teaching Hospital today. Now, kids forced to hail Tinubu on the rain as condolence visit turns to political rally in Benue State. In a very recent development, Nigeria's Foreign Minister blasts U.S. over planned visa clampdown on ECOWAS. Also, President Tinubu laments no matter what he does, he'll be insulted, pays no more attention to critics. Still on Benue, President Tinubu orders security chiefs to call out the criminals and insecurity in Benue. As well as this, Gowon reveals orders to soldiers never wanted Biafran civil war to be against the Igbos. Customs hand over guns, 1,433 live cartridges intercepted in Ogun to police. Crisis looms as PDP and clash over National Executive Council meeting, National Secretary dispute. And on stories outside the shores of Nigeria, Trump's Iran dilemma exposes bitter split in President's circle. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has visited surviving victims of last Friday's massacre in the Yelwata community of the Guma local government area of Benue State. President Tinubu arrived in Makurdi, the state capital, today and went straight to the hospital after arriving at the Tactical Air Command Nigerian Air Force Base Makurdi at about 12:58 p.m. The president reportedly later left the hospital for the new banquet hall of the Benue State government. He got a wave of public anger and condemnation following allegations that school children were compelled to line the streets under heavy rain to welcome him. The president is in the state to sympathize with victims of recent attacks in Yawata, Guma local government area, where over 300 lives were lost in a deadly assault by suspected headsmen. But what many expected to be a solemn condolence visit turned into a political parade as groups were seen along major roads holding placards bearing images of Tinubu and Governor Hyacinth Alia with messages suggesting a second-term campaign. Willing to engage. Reports indicate that Washington may be considering visa restrictions on multiple African countries over alleged failure to meet new U.S. State Department benchmarks on document reliability and governance. Countries potentially affected include Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Ethiopia, and Cote d'Ivoire, amongst others. The policy is reportedly linked to concerns about identity documentation, government fraud, and cooperation with U.S. security and immigration enforcement. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stated today that he has learned from those who constantly insult him. The president made this statement while speaking during a town hall meeting with political leaders in Benue State, which is a hotbed of recent killings by armed terrorists that claimed at least 100 lives or more than. While speaking to the Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia, he said, and I quote, "Our political enemies don't want you to succeed. Are you just realizing that?" He called on leaders from across the region to work. War was never meant to be against the Igbos. Gowon said he wanted to get Nigeria united, hence he enforced a code of conduct during the war. He is superintendent over Nigeria during the Biafran civil war from 1967 to 1970. The civil war led to the death of thousands of Nigerians in the old eastern region. However, Gowon said he charged the Nigerian soldiers to only take up arms against the Biafran forces. In an interview today, he said he warned soldiers against killing women and children. He said, and I quote, "I was not aware of a counter-coup in 1966. I was unaware until that very night when I was woken up to say something had happened in Abeokuta. The war was something we didn't expect. There were reactions against the military system of government. I had a responsibility to keep Nigeria united, and I warn that if the situation gets to this stage where I have to choose to align with the break-up or the other side, I know where my responsibility is. My loyalty is to the country. From the beginning, I never wanted the war against the Igbos as such, but it was to stop the breaking up of Nigeria. So what I did was to give a code of conduct on how the operations were to go. You are not fighting the people. Make sure you protect the people, protect the This is Still the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Before we commence with our analysis segment, I would like to let us listen to a brief of the interview and hear a little bit of what General Yakubu Gowon said concerning what transpired during the Civil War.
of the fact that there was going to be a coup, a counter coup in July 1966?
No, what? Not at all. Until that very night,
Right.
that very night, or early morning, when I was woken up to say something had happened in Abeokuta, and before you know it, I think the news has spread the whole round. And I was on telephone trying to find out that I know that Gerasi was in Ibadan for meeting with all the traditional rulers, and just to war.
Was that the mayhem that was caused in the southeast at the time, the casualty of women and children, he doesn't think it was an order from the federal government of Nigeria. He said that the soldiers were on a bloodbath. They refused to listen to the order from the federal government. He tried to reach out to the federal government to see what was going on. Was this what you ordered? He said no, that by the time they even got to Owerri, they saw a church where they had burnt the women and children in the church, and that was not what the government of Nigeria had instructed the men on ground to do. So why do you think that kind of rampage went on? Because according to him, the war was to unite the country and it was not against the Igbos, but the casualty was immense. How would you react to this?
You see, there's a chain of command in the military.
Okay.
And apart from this chain of command, there's a level you get to in the military that you are allowed to use your discretion.
Okay.
For instance, you know that non-commissioned officers, they have their stripes here. But the moment you are a commissioned officer, you have your either star, eagle, or whatever, crossword here. The difference is this one can just drop anytime. But this, you are shouldering the responsibility of those you are leading. That's why you have anybody that is not through NDA cannot rise above warrant officer. That is the limit of where you can get to in the Nigerian army. And those ones, they don't wear their ranks in their shoulder. But because you are carrying a very big responsibility over your troops, over those you command, that's why you have your shoulder. Your rank is in your shoulder. And then, when you get to a certain point,
back to Nigeria, and then things went 360. So he attributed that particular collapse of the Aburi Accord to a fundamental disagreement between the federal government and the then Eastern Region leader Chukwuemeka Odumegojuku over control of military forces across the region. Gowon said Ojuku's insistence that regional governors should command zonal military units was a red line the federal government could not cross. During the interview today, Gowon stated that although both parties approached the January 1967 Aburi meeting in Ghana with sincerity, Ojuku's interpretation of the discussions went beyond the intended scope. What Gowon is alleging is the fact that whatever was possibly the necessity of that agreement, possibly Ojuku had an ulterior motive. It is the ulterior motive that led to the dissolution of the Aburi Accord when they returned. So this is...
it was wrong of him.
It was wrong of Ojuku?
Yes. Because there was no amendment to there was no constitution at that time. It was the military that was ruling.
Yeah.
So constitution couldn't have prevailed. They would have gone back to the Supreme Military Council, or whatever name it is called, for them to decide on regional government. Why is the federal government posting GOCs to the regions? Why is it not left for the governor to post GOCs? The federal government posted him to head the Eastern region. It wasn't his own making. He was not elected. It was posted by the military. So there was no way a federal government head of state would allow him to operate independent of him. Is by rank, by position, by... If there was a unitary government, there was no way a sitting head of state will agree Ojukwu to break away by saying he wants autonomy for the region, which could have as well been extended to maybe the western states and the eastern states and probably the northern states. So, for me, from what Ojukwu said, from what Gowon said, it appears that that accord was decimated at the point where Ojukwu said he wanted to control the army. He cannot control the army in his